Hello, my name is Kimberly Hilton, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I painted this little watercolor landscape scene of a sky with cotton candy clouds. And I wanted to show you the finished painting, and then I'll show you how I made it. But first I want to go over the materials. So I just used 100% cotton watercolor paper, and this was Arches cold press. I taped it down with masking tape. You don't have to do that part if you're working in a sketchbook. And or you could tape it down with clips. I like taping it down with tape because it gives it really nice clean borders around the painting. And for today I used this little palette, and it has tube paint that I squirted out. And the only colors that I used are the colors here in the middle, and I got those from raw sienna. I just added water and made a wash with raw sienna here, and then I used the sky blue color and made a wash here, and I used this pink color, which is a red rose deep color, and I mixed it here, and then I used this neutral tint color and I mixed it here. So I had all my colors ready before I started painting, and that's kind of an important thing to do. But I want to show you the brushes. I used this flat brush to wet the paper, and then I used this round brush to paint the clouds and the mountain. And I have 2 pots of water, and this is just a roll of toilet paper that I covered with an old sock. But you need that for blotting, and that's the materials. And now I will show you how I did this. So I'm just using regular masking tape to tape down this watercolor paper to my little artboard, and I'm just eyeballing it. It's good to tape down your paper so that it will not buckle and warp on you. And it also will help you create a nice, pretty white border around your watercolor paper. So when you take the tape off, it will just look a lot cleaner and neater. Okay, so the next step is to get your watercolor paint and just wet it. You can use a spray bottle and just kind of mist over it. Or you can take one of these little pipettes and squeeze water into the colors that you will be using. And then you want to take, today I'm going to be using this raw sienna, the sky blue color, which is a cerulean blue, and I'm going to use this pink color, which is actually Red Rose Deep by DaVinci, and I may use this dark color, this neutral tint by Daniel Smith. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare my paint. You want your paint to be really wet, so just go ahead and add water to one of these little mixing wells here. And get some of the paint out. You want the paint to be kind of as thick as whole milk, and you want to make sure you have enough of it. It's good to use more water than paint when you're painting skies, because you don't want your skies to be too dark, because the sky is usually the lightest part in a painting. So that right there is probably going to be enough, but if you want to, you can make more. It's better to have more than you need. And the next color I'm going to get ready is this cerulean blue, this right here, this sky blue color. And I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I'm going to get out a little water first. I'm just going to go ahead and put the water in there, and then I'll add the blue color to it until I get the consistency that I want. That's really watery, so I'm just going to add a little bit more till it's a little bit thicker, to where it looks like I said, milk, how thick milk is. It doesn't have to be precise. You just want enough color in there so that you can see it. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rinse my brush in the water. And it's good to have 2 cups of water so that you can dip in to clean water when you need it. And I'm also using, this is a roll of toilet paper that I just put an old sock over. If you don't have an old sock, you can just wrap a couple paper towels around it. You don't have to have the toilet paper. You can just use paper towels or an old t-shirt, old rag. It doesn't matter. This is just to blot your paintbrush with, so that you remove most of the excess water. You want your paintbrush damp, but you don't want it dripping wet when you start to paint. It's important to rinse your brush before you dip into another color, so that you don't mix the colors accidentally, unless you want to mix your colors. So the next color I'm going to grab is this pink color here, and I'm just going to put it in one of these areas, these mixing areas. And you don't have to use the mixing area here, because you can use you could use your lid, or you could use an old plate, a styrofoam plate, or just whatever you have. And you want that to be about the same thickness as the other colors. And now I'm going to, since my paint is prepared, I'm going to rinse my brush again. And this is a size 12 round brush. Just as long as you have, a paintbrush, it doesn't really matter. This is just the one I'm using, and I like to use this is called a flat brush. It's a wash brush, and this is 3/4 of an inch. So it's just a little bit smaller than an inch. And the first thing I'm going to do is just wet the whole paper. I'm going to set this down, my paints down for a minute, and I'm just going to take my paintbrush and lightly wet the whole paper. It's good to tilt your head so you can see where the paper is shiny, and that tells you where the paper is wet. Now, if you don't want to do it this way, you can take your water spray bottle and just spray over it, and then use your brush to spread it out. You don't want to get it too soaking, just damp. And this will let the water flow on the watercolor flow on the surface of your paper, and it will mix together and create really pretty effects. So I'm just going to let that sit for a few seconds. And this is my palette. The next thing I'm going to do is take these colors, and I'm just going to start. I'm going to put the blue on the top, and you can kind of just paint around. You can just kind of paint around and maybe kind of leave some cloud shapes if you want to, some of the white area. In watercolor, we use the white of the paper as the white, and so we don't add white unless we really need to. It's better to just use the white of the paper with watercolor. And now I'm going to add some of this raw sienna color to some of these cloud areas on the bottoms. And then I'm going to dip my brush in the water and kind of rinse it off a little bit. And I'm going to put the pink, because I kind of want this to be a cotton candy sky. So I'm going to put the pink in the top of that white area where we want the clouds to be. And you'll see that the colors will begin to just blend together on their own. And that's really cool because it kind of helps you paint the painting, and it kind of really looks like cloud shapes. So you can smooth them out if you need to, because sometimes it spreads out in a kind of fuzzy, furry way. And it's important to kind of work fast when you're doing skies, because once it starts to dry, you can have you can mess your sky up. So I'm going back in and adding some more of that blue just to darken up the top part of the sky a little bit. And I want the bottom part of the sky to be lighter. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm just going to put the paint to the side, and I'm going to take a little bit of paper towel and just break off a piece, and you can roll it up and just where you want some white parts of the cloud, like some highlights, you can just dab it on like that. And you can wad it up if you want to dab like this. And that helps bring out some highlights in your cloud. So your cloud looks puffy. And then I'm just going to go over the bottom, because toward the bottom it's lighter than the top. Okay, so this is all I'm going to do for this. So I'm just going to let it dry. You can let it dry naturally, or you can get a hair dryer and you can just dry over it. And once it's dry, you can leave it the way it is if you want it to be a sky painting, or you can add some landscape, like a mountain or a tree or grass or whatever you want to be your landscape. A good color to use for the mountain, once this is dry, is this neutral tint. And once this is dry, I will come back in and I will show you how to use the neutral tint to make a mountain. Okay, so now this is dry. I took a hair dryer to it. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of this dark color. It's almost a black color, but it's not black. It's called neutral tint. And it is just like a dark color, almost black. And I'm just going to put some water in there, and I'm just going to get out some of this paint. Now, you can have this one a little bit thicker than the other ones if you want to. So it can be a little bit creamier than milk. And you can either use this round brush or you can use your flat brush, either one you're more comfortable with. Since I already have paint on this brush, I'm just going to use this. And I'm just going to imagine where my mountain is. So if you have a mountain nearby, you can look outside and see how that mountain looks, or you can just make like mountain shapes, like an M, like M for mountain, but make it just go out and down, out and down. So I'm just going to take the brush and hold it kind of on the side and just wiggle it across the paper until I have my shape. Now you can do it as high up as you want to. I'm just kind of doing it kind of low down because this is a sky painting, and the sky is what I want people to notice and pay attention to. The mountain just gives it a more finished look. So that's a good mountain shape, and if you want to, you can rinse your brush out, rinse it out real good. Take the brush and blot it on your rag or cloth or whatever you're using. And then this is going to be called a thirsty brush because it's not wet, it's just damp, and it will pick up paint. So you can drag it on the edge of your mountain wherever you want it to have a highlight. The highlight is where the sun might be hitting the mountain. So that's a good place for a highlight. And then I'm going to do the same thing, is rinse that out, dry it off a little bit, and then I'm going to do a highlight on this mountain. And by doing the highlights, you kind of make the mountains look more realistic. They look more like they have shape. So you can just do that, and just a little bit's all you need to do. And now you can let this dry again, and once it's dry, you can be very careful and remove the tape if you're using tape. If you're not using tape, then you know, if you're using a sketchbook and you didn't use tape, then that's okay. But I'm just going to take the hairdryer to this really quick so that I can remove the tape and show you what it looks like. Okay, so that should be dry enough. And it's also good because the hairdryer warms up the tape and makes it easier to pull off. So if you're using tape, try to just lift up the corner and just pull it away from your painting like this. That way, if the tape is stuck on too much, it won't tear your painting if it starts to tear. Just go slow and just take the corner and then just pull it away from the painting like this. And then you can go up like that and like that, and that's all you have to do. One important thing that I forgot to do was sign the painting. So I'm just going to take a pen. You can use your watercolor, but I'm just going to take a pen and I'm just going to sign my name down here on the white. Normally I sign it on the painting itself, but where this might still be a little bit wet, I thought it might be nice just to sign it down here. So that's it, and I hope you have a great day and happy painting.